just want to thank President Gaspari for sharing the French concerns about the awful call of former Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad to kill millions of French people. This call for genocide is intolerable. So the political proximity of the current Malaysian government to this former PM and the official silence of Malaysia still question us. Then I take advantage of these meetings to ask for clarification about the positions and opinions of the Malaysian diplomatic representation. Does the Malaysian government assume those threatening words of its former Prime Minister?
Thank you, everyone. I think I will go straight ahead and respond to some of the questions that were raised. I have on my list, I think, 3 questions. One is 2 from MEP Hautala on the issue of palm oil, and then you have also the issue of labor matters concerning rubber gloves, and of course, the very controversial issue regarding the statement made by Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. On the issue of palm oil, I am pleasantly surprised that MEP Hautala viewed that palm oil has not been treated very objectively. I cannot but agree to that statement. You know, while there is effort to highly regulate the palm oil industry, there is not much done in terms of regulating other vegetable oils, and this has always been a dilemma for us. We have felt that there is no level playing field for the palm oil industry. In terms of EU policies, we have always been in touch with the relevant stakeholders, also our industry, to educate and promote awareness in terms of developments of EU policies, including on due diligence, including on European Green Deal, and how it's actually going to impact the palm oil industry as a whole. This also includes participation in the public consultations by the EU. We are well aware of these new policies, and of course, one of the biggest concern for the industry has always been there is no efforts in terms of co-creation of sustainability criteria between EU as well as other partners. Of course, we always talk about being partners in terms of ASEAN and EU, but the approach has always been very single-handed and not really taking into consideration some of the issues that ASEAN has had. And that's why I think we really look forward to the joint working group on palm oil between both sides, so that we can actually address some of these issues and also see how we can find a way forward on the matter. In terms of the labor conditions, I think what the statement of the minister today exactly means is that we take these issues very, very seriously. So if there are evidence on this matter, please, put them forward so that we are also made aware of it. And we are very committed to improving labor conditions in Malaysia. So I think that's very important. And we have, as the government has always been very proactive in this matter. Now, I would also like to address this very controversial issue in relation to Dr. Mahathir Mohamad's statement. Firstly, allow me to express condolences to the victims and the families of the recent violent attacks in France and Austria. It has been a challenging year for everyone, handling the pandemic on one hand, as well as the scale of its economic impact. And in the midst of this, we continue to face other equally daunting challenges of prevailing extremism and terrorism in many forms. We have devastating reminders of them. Let me also outline our position on this. Malaysia strongly condemns the actions of those who justify violence and acts of terrorism in the name of religion. As a democratic and moderate Muslim nation, we continue to promote mutual respect, harmonious and peaceful coexistence between peoples of different religions, faiths, and beliefs. This represents the very fabric of Malaysia's diverse society. As a democratic nation, we respect the freedom of speech and expression, but such freedoms carry duties and responsibilities. These fundamental principles are not only enshrined in the Federal Constitution of Malaysia, but also the European Convention on Human Rights. Freedom of expression and speech cannot be abused to justify harm, stoke hatred, and propagate racism, Islamophobia, and xenophobia. We strongly condemn any inflammatory rhetoric and provocative acts that seek to defame Islam, whether in the forms of populist speeches or publication, conflating Islam with terrorism, and the blasphemous caricatures depicting the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Turning now to the issue of the tweet of Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, which has been the subject of 2 letters I received from members of the European Parliament, including the chair of DASE. Let me reiterate Malaysia's position. Tun Mahathir's statement on Twitter and Facebook is his personal view. They are not related to nor represent the position of the government of Malaysia. Since I have the floor, I would also like to draw your attention to a situation which occurred in February 2020 during the Alps Carnival parade here in Belgium, where the EU Commission criticized the Belgian street parade for anti-Semitic caricatures deemed to be incompatible with EU values and principles. The same carnival was taken out of the UNESCO heritage list for promoting anti-Semitism. There are similarities in the situation to that of the blasphemous caricatures depicting the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. However, the response clearly has been different. The contradiction is glaring and this speaks for itself. These are the things that we have to reflect upon in addressing some of the fundamental issues that we are faced with today, including discrimination and racism. I leave this as food for thought and express our continued commitment to working together with the international community to address and combat terrorism and extremism. Thank you.